Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the She Run Strong podcast, powered by Coach Parry. As always, I've got Coach Nikki Friedman here with me today. Nikki, how are you doing today?
Yep, I'm good. I'm looking forward to this episode. I'm looking forward to having a chat with Beth and looking forward to hearing her running journey. And I'm good. How are you doing?
Yeah, all good as well. I really am also looking forward to this call with Beth, as you mentioned. So we've got one of our Coach Parry members on today, Beth Groh. And what I love about Beth's story and why we're both so excited about this is that Beth took up running quite later in life, and really is just the most perfect example of how to just break down boundaries of everyone telling you that we need to slow down and you need to ease up. And Beth has really done the opposite and has an awesome attitude towards running and running later in life. So I'm looking forward to this call as well. And we'll be bringing Beth on right about now. So let me do exactly that. Hello, Beth. Welcome to the She Run Strong podcast.
I'm happy to be here.
Awesome to have you on. Beth, maybe just to start us off, tell us a little bit about your running history and your sporting history. You mentioned that you came on running a little bit later in life. When exactly did it happen? And maybe just give people perspective of how old you are now and where you're sort of at with all of that.
Well, we'll start at the end, and hopefully it's still a beginning, but I'm 62. And I can look back, and there were occasional seasons in life when I would go jog because I was a type A and I was too bored to walk. So I would just go jog if my clothes were a little too tight and I had a little bit of the pooch. And so, 1 mile seemed like an eternity, occasionally too. So, I had shoes around for a good part of my life, but then started having kids and, those shoes disappeared. And I never made that mental pivot to say I was a runner. I married one. Which when he started to get back into it, it made me a little bit of a running widow. And I decided if we were going to have some common ground as our nest got more empty, that maybe I should find those shoes or get some new ones. And so I dabbled a little bit. I did my first 5K, I think, in 2018. But during that season, I was the ultimate sandwich generation where I had pressing needs with the younger generation as they were launching into adulthood. And my parents were having failing health across the country. And so the caregiver role really started to dominate my life. So the shoes went back in the closet. And after they passed in 2019, I felt like I needed to, just reclaim my health because I could see what a life of obesity and a sedentary lifestyle did to them. And if there were any genetic genes, lurking in my DNA, I did not want to follow that course because I saw the price that the caregivers pay as well as the individual who suffers from that. So I wanted to get active, but I felt like my body wasn't cooperating, being postmenopausal, and I was sluggish, and I just started to buy into the narrative that I'm just old. And I looked at the calendar and I thought,
so easy to do. So easy.
I'm just too old for this.
Yes.
And I'm fortunate that I had a doctor who was, very, very much attuned to mindset and the whole body. And I just told her, I said, listen, I tried running. This was like in 2020. And I said, I feel like an old woman. And she said, well, let's look at your hormones. And about 2 weeks later, she called. She said, yeah, you kind of are an old woman. You've got some way imbalances. And she said, we're going to fix this. And so we started playing around with some, adjusting. And I started to feel, a little bit more like my old self. And I decided this time it was time to get those shoes out and make it stick. So I'd say it was probably about 2022, which would have put me maybe around 58, that instead of just occasionally going out for a little jog, I didn't decide. I realized I had become a runner. I wasn't someone who ran.
Love it.
I was a runner, and therefore that's what I do. Awesome. And so I'm very thrilled that God gave me this opportunity and this at this stage in life to reclaim a new role, a new vocation. I mean, I'm still a wife, I'm still a business person, but I'm a runner, and it's a title, it's a part of my job description, and it's part of how I approach life. And I hope I can just be that little nudge for some of my friends that they may be running their own marathon in life. Maybe it's, even got some who are walking through breast cancer and, difficult marriages and other struggles in life. And I see that they are running their marathons, which is different than 26.2 miles, but maybe they can find some comfort and encouragement to see that, somebody's not trying to just ease into aging, but trying to push through and to, use the gifts and health that I've been blessed with, and to treat it as a gift and take a stewardship role, which that's a word I use a lot in my own mind, that I need to be a steward to this drive that I have to run and the health that I've been blessed to have to make that happen.
Excellent.
I love that.
Can I ask, are you still working? Are you kind of still 9 to 5 working, or what's
No,
that?
I've been self-employed for many years, so I still
You have a
do that
flexibility.
now, but I'm able to ease back. We've been at a position in life where we were able to enjoy some of the fruits of our labors in those younger years, and so I am able to ease back, and that is a blessing. But I would like to think, even if I had to punch a clock, a 9 to 5, that come 5:30, I'd still go to the park and make this happen.
Yeah, good. I love what you say about that, because people, a lot of the females that I work with, or most females, to be honest, every time I get onto a call with them, they say, "Oh, I run, but I'm not a real runner." So they don't identify as a runner, and so I love that you've taken that on, because one of my sayings is always, if you lace your running shoes up and you head out with the intention of going for a run, in my mind, and you go right foot, left foot, right foot, you are a runner. And so I love that you've taken on that persona, and I think that's quite important as well.
To parse that out a little bit, is I think there becomes, it is a decision. I mean, it's an acknowledgement that, yes, that's what I'm doing, but I think it's that decision to say, no, that's who I am. And then therefore it is what you do, if that makes sense. Because even growing up, I had I just was not an athlete, and I was telling myself that instead of saying I'm a runner, I am a non-runner. I am a non-athlete. I had some respiratory issues as a child, and my parents and my doctors decided, I didn't even do regular physical education. While the kids were out there running on the track or playing basketball, I was in playing chess.
Right.
And I was very bubble wrapped, and so that became part of my narrative. And I think it also, looking back, it hindered me. I occasionally would go run, but it was like, oh no, I'm not the athlete. I was
It
in
stays
band
with
in high
you in
school.
your head. It's sort of,
Exactly.
they build that, and it
Yeah.
stays with
And
you.
I had to shut that voice off.
Yeah.
Because it became almost like not a badge of honor, but it just became part of the self-identity of, oh, well, I'm not the athlete. I do this and this. And now it's like, yeah, I am. I like my strength sessions. I like lifting now.
Awesome.
Never thought those words had come across my lips.
I love that. Absolutely love that. Let's talk a little bit about your running, and because since you joined Coach Parry, you hit a milestone within your half marathon, which I know you're fighting for a long time, and so I think you ran, and that's your half marathon. Beth wanted to break the sub 2 hour mark in the half marathon, and you managed to do that. But let's maybe take a step before that, before you did your half marathon, and before you joined Coach Parry, you had started running, but you landed up with quite a bad injury.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did the big mistake, the DIY, do it yourself, approach to running, and I had my little calendar, and I'd write down how much I ran, and I always wrote what my pace was. And I look back now and I cringe. And I also wrote what my Garmin told me was my aerobic and my anaerobic.
Yes.
And I laugh now, but I cringe now that I felt like I had, failed the run if I didn't have close to a 5 and 5, meaning it was full aerobic and it was full anaerobic running.
Every session.
Every session. I wanted it to be hard. And it was. And it was so hard that it just started to hurt. And then I tried to press through on the hurt. And and then I wasn't getting that anaerobic, which means, in layman's terms, it means the intensity was way out of proportion. And so finally I listened to the reason of others, and I went to a doctor, and he just had me try to hop on a leg, and he's like, I don't even need an x-ray. You have a stress fracture in your femur. And I don't know how you managed to do that, girl, because that's one of your strongest bones. But he said, congratulations, you ran yourself in the ground. And so that was when I was training for what I thought was going to be my first marathon in December of 2023. And I licked my wounds. That very day, I joined the YMCA here. A friend of mine says, take your running into the pool. I got a belt and figured out DIY how to aqua jog. And then come the 1st of January, I listened to one of the Coach Parry webinars, and I said, this is for me. So I came to you in January of 2024. And then I got on the right track and started to get more balance, and didn't want to have an anaerobic score when I ran unless it was a very short interval session. And you guys kind of stitched me back together and got me back on track.
Yeah, that was also because your first half marathon that you ran, you said to me, actually, that was before you joined Coach Parry. I mean, you'd done, I think it was a 2:02 or 2:01 anyway. So you were on that sub-2 cusp as it was, but then obviously coming in injured. I know it took you, a few months to get back from that stress fracture.
Right. And then I ran a 2:02, which I was thrilled with, just because I was able to run it completed.
Great times for being relatively new to running.
Yeah, definitely. But you said something to me, Beth, that doctor said to you about it, what, like a 440 or what? What is that?
We're really blessed in our community. We live in Oklahoma City, and there's a robust running community. It's flat and it's fast, so you have to work hard for hills. But there's a great system here. And one of our gyms we call him Dr. Tom, and he's a long time multi-marathon runner himself. Probably now well older than he looks, but let's just generously say in his 70s. And he had me write down after I did that. I mean, I'll never forget it. He gets it as a runner. He put his hands on my shoulder and he said, you just listen to me. He said, you are not running a marathon. And as of today, you're not running again until I tell you. He said, I need you to hear that. And he said, I want you to, but there's hope. He said, write down 440. I was like, okay, Dr. Tom, I don't know what I'm doing, but I wrote down 440. He said, draw a line between the fours. And he said, 4 times a week, 40 miles a week. That's your sweet spot. And occasionally you may have to break over that if you're training for a marathon to get some of those weeks higher, but that's your limit. That's what your body is saying works well for you. Now you can cross train, you should do strength training, but 4 times a week is what your body is telling you, and I'm telling you that you need. And that very much dovetails with the plans that you offer and how I've been able to, break down some of those barriers and do what I swore I'd never do, run a marathon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we'll come to that marathon in a bit. So then just to let everyone know, I think it was March, if I'm not mistaken, that you then broke that sub-2 hour
this year. Yes. Yeah. I did. And it was like a 1:57. And then it was just like 2.5 weeks later, there was another half marathon. I thought, well, okay, I'll go. And my goal was to just have fun because I crossed that off my list, and I had fun, and I got a 1:56. So
amazing.
It felt really good. Yeah.
And you were first in your age group as well.
Yes, I was. Yeah. And then during that time, I had another breakthrough. This was back in April. I did a 10K, and again, low expectations. We traveled, little jet lag. It wasn't an A race. I was focused on the half marathon coming up on my calendar. But I went out and I had fun. I think that's the key. Go out to have fun. Yeah. And I was watching my watch and was like, this is coming together here. Awesome. And bottom line is I was able to run my 10K at a faster pace than I'd ever run a 5K, which was amazing. A nice surprise. Amazing. And it was nice to get a first place on that one too. That was a 52 something, which was, maybe an outlier, but it felt good to just
Amazing.
feel like some of the
These
hard work had
are
come together.
fast times.
Amazing.
Awesome.
What?
Awesome.
Sorry, Nikki, if you have something there, but I just want to, what was it for you, Beth, that you feel made a difference in that time? You're coming into Coach Parry and you've come in with this injury and you've got a doctor that's really helpful and a community that seems great as well. But what were the things that you feel really got you to that sub-2 or got you to those, both of those PBs in the 10K and the half? If you want to recover from sessions faster, not feel tired all the time, run pain and injury-free, and improve your endurance, then be sure to join me in my upcoming training specifically for female runners over the age of 45. In it, I'll share with you my simple 5-step framework that will transform your running. Simply scan the QR code on screen now or click on the link in the description to save your seats in the training now. We look forward to seeing you there.
The strength training.
Okay.
Hands down, because dialing back, coming out of the stress fracture, I did some modified, and I felt like in my mind I was doing strength training, but I really wasn't. I was checking the box. People are Coach Parry, it's like you're turning it green, but I wasn't putting as much focus in, and I was still a little, I was limited in mentally trying to baby that leg a little bit. But I think it not only gave me the physical strength, but the mental strength that when things got tough, I could say, I paid for that hill when I did wall sits, to strengthen my quads. I paid for that hill when I was doing some squats and lunges, and I think that made a lot of the difference. And also too, I've been able to visibly see differences in my legs and my arms, and my physique is very different. And that's, yes, from running, but it's a kind of toning and conditioning that I've never experienced. And I find, pride sounds prideful, but it feels good to look in the mirror. And yeah, my skin still looks crepey because I'm 62 and I don't care how much I spend on creams. That's a reality. But underneath those little wrinkles, there is some strength. And I think that has made all the difference too.
And can I ask, had you done strength training before? Was this quite new to you? Or
No, never.
So it was really very new. So you came to this really pretty late in life,
Yes, and sedentary. Pretty sedentary,
And did you find it quite challenging to sort of at first when you started?
Yeah. Even mentally, again, those barriers, that's not what I do, that's not, I'm not a gym rat, so I had to kind of overcome that. And I could join a place, but we had an extra room now that, the 3 kids have launched into adulthood, and I've just made that my workout room. So, that makes it an easy commute and easy to fit in, routine for me to have. So that was very new. And I still feel that's where I could up my game a bit more, that I'm figuring it out and I'm following the plans, but I'm not able to always attend any kind of a live session. So I'm not getting the feedback loop that I think I could probably be more efficient on my time, perhaps with some additional attention to that.
Amazing. Can I just say, and because obviously we have chatted to Beth before this call and we got a little bit about her history. We didn't ask her to say that, around strength training, because Beth, obviously, as you know, we punch strength training a lot, and it is just always nice when it comes out of someone else's mouth. Otherwise, much like your kids, how they would always listen to the teacher and not you. We feel the same way. So when it comes out of someone else's mouth, it really does help a lot. So.
And I think it's just at our age as women, it's non-negotiable. As our hormones change, our strength. You can tell when, even now, I feel it when I'm carrying the groceries. It's still, it's a bigger challenge. It's things I wouldn't think of in my 30s and 40s that I have to look at how heavy that is and how I position. And so I feel like I'm still fighting that aging process, and I'm, not Wonder Woman and I have the massive strength, but I can slow it down. I can slow it down, and I can try to soft land, and also to recognize I'm very high risk for osteoporosis and bone breakage. I'm a small framed, female Caucasian, and, I check a lot of boxes for that. So the strength training has to be a part of the DNA of my running and my overall health and wellness.
And you just feel good when you're a little bit toned and you stand a little bit straighter. And I think posture just really helps. And then when you're in the races, of course, and you're finishing those half marathons, still standing a bit stronger or running a bit taller at the end, that's when you really feel the strength training kicking in. And that's great. And those are really, great fast times for someone who's not been a runner.
Yeah.
I mean,
the good thing is when you start later in life, you can always personal best because you're not fighting against your 20-year-old self.
And so. I suspect you're going to get faster as well. So, so you've done your marathons. You did a marathon quite recently as well.
I did. I felt like I still had the, the DIY crash and burn that I didn't even get to the start line. I had to reclaim that. So last November, I ran my first marathon and I got a 4:21. I was trying for 4:20, but what I felt good about that is it was a very disciplined run, and I was purposeful. It was a small setting. I don't like the idea of 20,000 runners. There was like 200. It was in a small town in Arkansas. Just a good vibe that didn't give me a lot of the pre-race anxiety that I knew I would fight against. And so it was a good solid effort. Wouldn't say I fully hit the wall, but where it fell apart in the last 2 miles, it went to gravel, and I had gone into the race with a little bit of a groin strain. And once I hit that gravel terrain at, mile 24, the rocking of my legs and ankles, it went from barely noticeable to a stabbing pain. So I had the energy in the bank to finish strong, but I just had to gut it out and cross the finish line. Yes. And I really felt like that was done. I wasn't going to run another one. Everybody says you're not going to run another one.
One and done.
Yeah, one and done. Because again, starting late in life, I'm still trying to figure out, is a marathon my thing? Or do I want to claim the middle distance, the 10K, the half, and stick with that? But earlier this summer, a friend of mine said, "Hey, you want a girls' trip? We're going to go run in the mountains and run 2 miles through a mountain tunnel." It's like, I'm in.
Yeah. No brainer. Yeah.
Sounds good to me. Yeah. So, it gave us, some motivation to train in the hot summer heat of Oklahoma this summer. And so I ran number 2 about 3 weeks ago. And yes. I didn't have as good an outcome, didn't feel as good about it, but you know what? I finished. I was vertical and I finished. But I had to make a mental pivot about mile 19 and I saw my Boston qualifying time literally run past me with the other runners. And I couldn't get back. I had a gut issue, and at that point it had been a downhill. And once my quads got, the 2 to 3 minute unplanned potty break, I was like, the legs went into recovery mode and they just were not going to cooperate. And I felt like the injury risk was just too great to just try to piece it all together. So a friend of mine had joined me. It was an open course. And so we decided we were going to just have fun. And we laughed, we cried, I cried. And we, just became a little bit more of the tourist warriors and, gave our gels to other people who were struggling along the course. And then, I was able to run it in for the last couple of miles, but didn't have the finish I wanted, but I had a great experience. And I wouldn't have done it if it hadn't been for running. So
yeah.
No regrets.
I think sometimes marathons can be like that. And that's the nature of them. You never quite know what's going to happen when you stand on the start line, what the day is going to be like, how it's going to unfold, and what your day, and you can have this amazing 12 weeks of training or 10 weeks, and you think, well, you're feeling really on top of the world, and then I don't know, the wheels can kind of come off, and you can sort of set your pacing, you can set your nutrition, all this sort of stuff. But if there's something slightly misaligned in your body, if you've got something just like your tummy just doesn't want to play that day or whatever, it's so easy for it then to go kind of sideways. Whereas in a 10K, it'll just be a minute or two. Whereas in a marathon, it can be really a bit of a death march towards the end. So, and that's the beauty of it. And I think that's what keeps us coming back to the marathon, is just, it's such a challenge and quite a battle. And when it goes correct, it's just awesome.
Yes.
So from that, you have another marathon coming up.
Well, yeah. So before you say that, Beth, because I was just about to say to you, you said one and done. Now it's two and done. But you've got this third marathon coming up now. So I feel like
I never believe the one and done.
Yeah, no. Whenever someone says one and done, I'm always like,
I'll speak to you in a week's time.
Yeah,
it's just
exactly.
Hey, my husband's asleep because he did his long run late last night, so he won't hear me say this, but it's his fault.
Okay. That's fine. Blame it who you need to blame it on, Beth. I don't mind, but
we love Greece, and we've kind of adopted Greece and as a kind of a second home. And so a couple of months ago, he's like, let's do the Athens Original. He said, I'm going to do it. Do you want to do it? I was like, okay. And then I looked at the elevation chart. Yeah, you kind of start climbing at about the 10K mark, and you're done at about mile 19 and a half. And it's just kind of going uphill. And it's full sun, and, it's can be pretty warm. So I'm just still trying to figure out not trying to overthink it. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to finish. I have no time expectations, which may mean it goes better than the last one. But just keep training between now and then and try not to get hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in November in Greece, you're probably going to be okay. You could get a randomly hot day, but generally speaking, it's fairly low in temperature at that point. It's the elevation I'd probably be more worried about.
Yeah, it's just that relentless climb, and I. What do? You just prepare for it mentally and physically, and keep in the strength training, and just press on through. And then just know that if you can, avoid the proverbial wall around mile 20, it is a downhill, to get into the Olympic Stadium. And so that's a plus.
Yeah, so I think it's quite cool for you, if I could say. I mean, between your three marathons, so you say the first one was semi-flats-ish last year, and then you've done a downhill one, and now you're tackling a really big kind of uphill one, which is great. So I think there's always things to, as Nikki mentions, you never know what you're going to get on marathon day, and I think there's always lessons to be learned in that, and I think one of the things from your downhill marathon, your second one now, is that maybe a pacing thing. I think we spoke a little bit about that in the forum. And so tackling a hilly marathon, pacing has to be absolutely like on par, and to try not to go out too fast in the beginning is going to be key. But yeah, lots of lessons to learn here and to gain from that. And you are doing the strength training, and you mentioned that you want to focus on that more. So yeah, I do think all of that is going to put you in good stead for this marathon anyways. I mean, to have nailed that second marathon spot on would have been amazing. It's only two marathons. I think had you nailed that pacing, had you done all of that would have been unbelievable. And unfortunately, as Nikki says, I mean, when things just don't go right in a marathon,
and the thing is, I purposely, I did not, I've tried, one thing, when you do this later in life, you want to learn from others' mistakes.
Yes.
And my whole mantra was the first 10 miles of that marathon was flat. And so I was going to, just run that below my marathon goal time. And my goal was, that was going to be about a 9:45 pace, so that was my goal. So I caught early on the pacer at 10:15. I was going to kind of keep her in sight. That should moderate that. Did not expect my Garmin to go all over the map and go crazy on me in that remote area. So in hindsight, if I'd had a low-tech pace band, I think I could have caught that I was running hotter than I thought I was. I literally did not think I was.
Yeah.
All my feedback was showing me I was right about that 9:40, 9:45 pace. My data later showed, some of my miles were 9:25, 9:30, 9:35, and those 10, 15 seconds, they matter.
Absolutely.
And so the intensity was stronger than my gut could handle. And I think my other big takeaway is I was steady on my nutrition and really felt like my hydration was aligned pretty good. I didn't. I'm so afraid of having to go take a potty break to pee that I don't get a lot of thirst and I don't sweat much. So I don't think I gave my gut the hydration levels that I needed. And it would have been a lot quicker to just, have a quick little pit stop than have, everything just, go to pot, later. So that is correctable when it comes to Athens. And so the good thing is there, in America, they give you these little cups and, take a sip and you toss it. There they hand you water bottles. And so I'm just going to carry that water bottle and make sure I'm drinking more than I think I need. Because again, the full sun, is going to be a factor. Even if the temps are good, there's no shade on that course. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, that's one way. Certainly, I've run a couple of hot Londons where I've just grabbed a bottle of water in the first 3 or 4 miles, and then I've been running with it for quite a duration, and just sipping from it. And if they have those water bottles that have the little like Suki tops, then they're so much better. So that's definitely one way to do it, and just have that. The other way is to take your own water bottle and just have it.
I did, and my plan was to refill it, and I didn't use enough to refill it, which was kind of a clue that I wasn't taking that as seriously as I should have.
And what about on your long runs? Do you practice taking water in?
Yeah, and I practice my gels, and I've had some trial and
error. But you
didn't
do it in the marathon?
No, I gelled. I did drink, but also too, I think with the higher intensity, I needed, because when I do a long run, I'm doing more like a 9:20, a 10:20, 10:30 pace. It is conversational. It is an easy run. And so I don't think my hydration demands were as high as they were that day, and I didn't compensate for them. But yes, now I'm just a believer that I've got to overshoot, and if I overshoot and I take a quick detours, that's better than a crash and burn. That happened 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I think that is key. So I think overshoots that in terms of taking in some water. I think I would aim to take in some water definitely every single time you're taking in a gel or something else as well.
Yeah.
Be very careful though also of, the concept of hydration is drinking to thirst. You did mention that you don't necessarily get too thirsty and you don't sweat too much, but just be careful to not overhydrate, because obviously there is a risk of hyponatremia as well, which so just watch that line for sure. But yes, I do think that was one of the concerns that did cause your gut discomfort in the marathon. I do think you do need to take in a little bit more, but just watch that you're not.
And I've got a couple of long runs scheduled in, and so I'm going to practice, to Nikki's point, make sure and do that. And my husband carries a Hydro Flask, which has the grip and the sipping, and I have one in the back, but it is a little bit more awkward because I don't like it in my hands, but I need to get over that, and just make sure it's literally in front and center so that I can compensate for a very wiggly tummy.
Yes.
And I think, from the gel standpoint, the mistake I'd made and where I'd kind of crashed on trying to hit that Sub-2 is I was doing the gels that were a little bit more sugar-based, and that's just not in my diet anyway. And I think I experienced more of an insulin spike and drop that was throwing me off. So I found one that's a very low glycemic,
Okay.
easy. I get the unflavored gel. It doesn't have a strong taste. It works better with my body. And so I feel like that part was there and I was consistent. But
Good.
the hydration, I think, was a weak link too. Plus the pacing, I was off.
That's all good stuff that you can easily practice
Exactly.
going ahead. So that's, and you've identified it and you know it. So that's a really good thing for this training cycle. Tell me, do you feel that you've recovered enough to be starting a new training cycle well, I know you're not quite, you're sort of into the training cycle for Athens, but do you feel recovered and okay in
Shockingly,
this training
yeah.
cycle? So you're feeling
Shockingly, yes.
you've done
Yeah,
it quite back to back, which would always make us coaches slightly anxious. So when I saw your plans, I was thinking, ooh, it's quite close, quite tight, but you're feeling good. And
after what I realize now is that my recovery from that first marathon, literally, you talk about feeling like an old woman. We had a rolling suitcase and I was using it as my walker to get out of the hotel and get to the car. And when I came home, my mother-in-law's walker was in the garage. I was like, that's looking pretty helpful. Yeah. So what I realized is that groin injury that I had aggravated was a real injury, and that I was down for about 3 weeks and there was no way I could have recovered like I have this time. So the fact that I was injury free, which I credit to the strength training, I think has made such a difference. And it probably doesn't hurt to walk off a couple of miles in the middle of your marathon, which was, I had recovery on the course until I, got my legs back under me. So I think that made a difference. And then my friend and I made it a point that we did walk a lot afterwards. And I did not do that after the first marathon. So that's a long way of saying I was planning to take almost a full 2 weeks. And within that first week, I felt like I could just go do a real light recovery jog of about a mile. That went well. I let that settle a day, and I've eased back, but I'm feeling back, sleeping good, nutrition's good, so I'm back in full training mode.
Good.
Okay.
Do you? Oh, sorry. You go ahead, Nikki. No, go ahead, Nikki.
I'm just going to circle back to when you said you were at school and when you were younger, and you said you had respiratory issues, which stopped you from doing exercise and playing. Oh, what was it? You said chess, and was it chess? No.
Yeah, checkers. I mean, it was just they called it adaptive PE back then. But
okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, right. Interesting. So it's checkers. So how has that been an issue this time, or has that been fine?
No. And I look back now, and I think it was just, again, my age and that era. There was a concern about asthma, and there really were not the rescue inhaler options and a lot of things then. So I think it was more of an abundance of caution, because I tended to get chronic bronchitis, which could tip into pneumonia. So the feeling was that the exertion could tip me to that. So I can't, as a parent now and a grandparent, I can't second guess decision makings of my parents, but based on what they knew at that time, it was the right call for them. But it did not, I don't think it's carried forward, but it starts to plant that self-identity narrative in your mind. And I think a lot of us, can sometimes have those scripts running that we don't realize, and we can rewrite those scripts.
Yeah, absolutely. Beth, did you have a question for us with Athens coming up? Is there anything you wanted to ask us? And I mean, I know you have access to the forum, so you have access to all our coaches anyways, but anything in particular that you wanted to ask Nikki and I in the build up to Athens now coming up in November? So, I mean, that's what you've got 5 weeks-ish for.
But there's this little thing in the middle, which is a half marathon on the island of Crete on October 5th.
Okay.
So, and that one is one of these real steep, real down. I did it last year. That one is hot and full sun, but it's an epic experience. And so I ran it really hard, but even at that, it was a 2:15, and I was very content with that. So my goal is to keep it more as a training run, but I am going to have the interruption of overseas travel there and back. Once I'm there, it's an awesome place to run. We have our favorite little honey spots of where we like to run, and so I can get the mileage in to stay on track. But I think it's more, my question is that with these interruptions, trying to still keep the volume that I need and avoid, when possible, back-to-backs, because that's when my body I just don't like the back-to-backs that much. I feel like I need that recovery in between. How to make the accommodations on my schedule when I need to, and if I need to pull back on volume or drop interval speed sessions and drop those, but keep the volumes. In other words, if I've got the seesaw, where should I let go as I need to, and where should I keep on point with my schedule?
Well, okay, so let's just confirm Athens is on the 9th of November. Yep. And so you say you've got Crete's half on
October 5th.
October 5th. Nikki, you want to tackle this first?
Okay, so my thing here I would definitely strongly recommend that the half marathon is done as a training run, and purely as a training run, because your last marathon was really actually very close. And so if you go hard on that half marathon, you really risk injury. And given that it's a destination marathon in Athens, you just want to make sure you get to that start line. So I would definitely take the half marathon as a sort of 2:30 sort of half marathon time, and even add in some walk breaks. I don't know when your travel is, but if it's that week going across, I would definitely just, use the walk breaks as a bit of nutrition practice, use it all as a bit of practice, but definitely take it easy as an easy pace half marathon. And this time perhaps enjoy the hills rather than having to push up and push down, that sort of thing. So that's where I would lie with that. And then in terms of, you have a plan already outlined on the Coach Parry platform, and it'll have 4 runs a week in it. And I would roughly try and just keep to that schedule. But if you're traveling on a day where you've got a run, then just let that run go. So, for example, it's always good to sort of keep the long runs ring-fenced and get them done, but you have a lot of volume already in your legs. So if you can't get this 2-hour 40 run or the 3-hour run, but you only do 1 hour 45 or 2 hours, that's fine. Just let that go completely, because just you're coming off the back of another marathon training cycle anyway. So you have plenty of volume there. And what you're looking for is consistency as much as you possibly can till your Athens marathon, not getting injured, not getting overly tired from the international travel and from the half marathon that you've got. Because the problem when you have a half marathon in a marathon training cycle is you have to kind of do a bit of a taper into it, and it's longer than we would like you to taper, and then you have to rest after it, and it can almost knock out 2 weeks of quality training. So, and a lot of people, and I really don't like a half marathon in the run up to a marathon. A lot of people kind of almost leave their marathon in that half marathon, because they very often do an amazing half marathon PB and it's awesome, but then they don't recover, or they pick up a cold afterwards or something like that, and then the rest of the 12-week block kind of goes a wee bit to pot. So I would just not look at it like a race at all, a half marathon, but just as one of your training runs, and hopefully it fits nicely in. I'm hoping it's on a deload week for you, actually. I didn't actually check that bit.
Yeah, and that's where I've had to make, I've been kind of playing around with this, and I did have a coach lay this down, so I had something to, some boxes to check. But it was like I've got a time trial, in this gap, and I just feel like I need to let that go, because if I need recovery, I probably need to keep the structure basically the same and just pull down a little bit, not so far down that then I go out in an all-out.
Yeah.
Well, let me back up. I'm not concerned at this stage of knowing what my marathon pace should be in Athens. It's going to be what it's going to be at this close horizon, and I'm going to have to deal with the jet lag and the conditions that I'm given that day. Completion is my goal, and respecting that marathon, that it's not just I'm just going to go walk it just to get my finisher medal. No, I want to run it. I want to attack it well. But I don't feel like I need the time trial data to help me dial in a pace. I think I know where I'm at right now. If that's a mistake, correct me.
I know. I mean, for sure, because if you've got that half marathon there as well, but let's just think of that as a training run anyway. But that definitely would be good to have a slight deload week going into that, especially if you're traveling out that week.
Yeah.
And you're right about the time trials. They're not. It depends exactly. How many weeks did you say it was, Shona?
So 4 weeks, because Crete is the 6th or the 5th, and Athens is the 8th.
So really that should be your deload sort of week, shouldn't it?
Yeah. So even now I'm struggling just even this week because I had some travel last weekend and had to adjust my schedule on that. I got some good volume in, but it's like today, is the Tuesday intensity session, but I want to get, ideally I'd like to get 2 long runs before I hit that plane a week from Thursday.
The Thursday and the Tuesday around, I guess. If you're feeling good to run and you feel like an easy long run or midweek long run is good, then you could swap those 2 around. Or if you're not feeling so good, you could just take it sort of 45, 60 minutes easy as well. But the intensity isn't so important because you've proven that you're quite fast. You are fast. So you've proven you've got speed. Yeah. But that's it. I think a lot of people kind of focus on the speed way too much marathon, whereas actually consistency and easy running is the key. Isn't that right, Shona?
Absolutely. And I think the balance is key. And I mean, we spoke about that briefly, very briefly offline before we started, is you understand your body and you know what you are feeling. And I love that you say you don't deal well with the back-to-back runs. And so you've adjusted that, and one of the things that we really believe in for our perimenopausal and postmenopausal females is that you have to be flexible with your training and you have to be able to move things around with how you feel. And so, I agree with everything Nikki said there in terms of the half marathon, in terms of that time trial. I think just chat to the coaches on the forum to make sure that half marathon is in a deloading week or in a recovery week for you, because if that is your travel week, that's important. Going from west to east, I always find harder with travel. I find the jet lag worse. And so, let's just make sure that we've got that set for you. And we do obviously have a few resources, which Beth, I think you used last year for Crete to help you with that jet lag, so things to do on the plane, things to really just help you adjust, to go for a long run. Oh, now I'm going to get it wrong. So I don't want to be specific, but to go for a run, whether you land in the morning or the evening, to help with some of those jet lag aspects. And so, but I think those changes to the plan are in need. And, I think the focus is Athens. You want to come out of Athens. You've had good half marathons, right? And so you want to come out of Athens now going, oh, that felt good. I felt strong, even if it wasn't the time that you missed. But you wanted to. That's the thing with the marathon. I always want people to feel strong, even if it's not the time that they wanted. And that's what I'd want for you coming out of Athens. And I think that's why that should be your priority. For sure there.
Yeah. Sounds like an awesome run up to Christmas you have, or the festive season. I know, I'm quite jealous.
And maybe it was crazy. Well, I think it was defeatism last year because the half marathon were so close, 2:01:20, 2:02:10. Not that I remember those times, but it's at the end of February and in Las Vegas, and so it's like I'm not going to have another 2:02. So I signed up for the 10K instead of the half, and I'm actually really looking forward to that. I was like, well, maybe I can be top 3 in the 10K, and so over Christmas I'm thinking more of just doing more of a speed block, to still keep some of the longer runs to, head into the spring training cycle. But I'm really kind of looking forward to just dialing in and trying to, have some fun in December and January and do some of the shorter intensity sessions.
That sounds good.
Yeah. Love that.
Brilliant.
Beth, if there's anything else, I just want to finish off with one of, I'm going to steal it. It's your quote. I hope you don't mind. I didn't even tell you that I'm doing this, but you put it in an email to me, and just when we were talking about putting this coaching call together, you said, despite our best efforts to slow the hands of time, our bodies still give us surprises along the way as we age. Sometimes it's better to expect it, laugh about it, and move on, rather than getting stuck with the I'm too old, in inverted commas, attitude. I'm too old for this attitude. And so I just, I love the mantra you have towards training. I love your mantra and your ethos towards how you're taking and tackling running at this stage of your life. And so thank you for coming to share your story with us on the She Runs Strong podcast. I hope someone else gets a lot of value from it and sees this. I see it as inspirational. I'm 40 and I want to be like you when I'm your age. And so thank you for sharing your story with us on the She Runs Strong podcast. Really, really awesome.
Truly my pleasure. You guys have just made this possible, and I feel very blessed to be a part of the Coach Parry tribe. And if other women can find some inspiration along the way and a little nudge to keep moving, then
hopefully this is part of many marathons for you to come. Good stuff.
Yes.
Well, okay, or maybe many half marathons.
Half marathons, whichever
But
fun running journey.
Still trying to figure this out.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's not Nikki and I both love the marathon, so that's why we're both a little bit biased towards it. But for me, it's about longevity, and it's about running how you want to run for as long as you want to run. And so but no, thank you. I really, really appreciate all your story and your time today. So thank you very, very much. Nikki, any parting shots from you with regards to that?
I think we've covered it. I just, it's been great to chat to you, Beth, today. Definitely.
Thank you. Thanks for the advice.
Good. Thank you so much. And to everyone listening, if you enjoyed this, let us know in the comments below. Share it with your friends, please, if you think someone will benefit from it. I think Beth's story, as we say, is so inspirational. So please share it and really hope that everyone enjoyed this episode. And Nikki and I will see you again next week. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.